Ta-da! Oh,
Are we on?
We're on.
okay.
Oh, well, welcome to our blog today. This is brought to you with Two Feathers Ike.
Two feathers.
Two feathers today,
Two
huh?
Feathers Ike, yeah. And we have some things to discuss. Since this is after the election instead of before it, we had some discussion before it last time, and so now we have some things to think about afterwards. And
I must say my hair looks fantastic today.
Absolutely on
It's
point.
laying on my coat just
yeah,
perfect.
it looks
perfect.
good.
Like a
Yeah,
lioness.
that's fine,
Is that
yeah.
a new coat? I mean, it looks pretty
No, it's
fancy.
an old coat.
Old coat.
Old coat, yeah.
Sorry
Yeah.
for the derailment.
Yeah,
So it's after election.
yeah,
We're all still here.
yeah, and
It's good.
So
the
far.
first, you know, you have various feelings about the election and so on. So we'd like to kind of sample some of those in a way here. Is after the election, we know who and what their
Intentions are.
intentions are. And with that information, this,
This Terrence is to Mr. Trump and Mr. Jefferson.
yes, that's it, yeah, yeah,
Terrence.
right. Yeah. I'm glad you can read it.
What is Terrence? Am I stupid? It's possible. What
I
is
don't
Terrence?
know. Yeah, Terrence. What is Terrence?
What's parents?
Terrence. What is
Terrence.
Terrence?
Clarence?
With a T. Terrence.
You wrote Terrence.
This Terrence.
Oh. Well, I'm trying to get pages right on this.
So that's not the word you meant.
No.
What word did you think you meant?
Where it says election, we know who and what their intentions are, and this
Transition?
Intentions.
Intentions?
is to Mr. Trump and Mr. Jefferson. Yeah.
Let's start by just figuring out what is the correlation between Trump and Jefferson?
Well, Trump is the president and Jefferson is the governor of Washington. Is that right? They got that
Ferguson.
right? Huh?
Ferguson.
Oh.
Well,
So the question may be, with Trump as president and a Republican, how does that affect, like, possibly Washington State with Ferguson being elected as a Democratic governor?
Ferguson. I got that wrong, huh?
That's all right. I think you must have just, it probably did a little autocorrect for you. So I think that's what
Yeah.
you mean, Mr. Trump and
Yeah.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yeah, I hate that when it does auto corrections.
Yeah, the voice to text can sometimes
Yeah,
be a little
yeah.
rough too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, they can.
so
ladies and
what are
gentlemen. So rough.
the national effects and what are the local effects of that?
Of the election.
Yeah, of the election. What you know, people got up and voted and they saw Mr. Trump as having certain ideas, and Mr. Ferguson, you say?
Ferguson?
Mr. Ferguson has certain ideas, and so what do you think now that those people are getting to have a say?
I'll give you my roundabout on it, and I think that the reason Trump was elected president for these next 4 years is I do think that it was America's way of saying, though they maybe didn't completely understand all of it, but, you know, they were saying, I've had enough.
Yeah, what?
I've had enough. I've
Oh.
had enough of the government being involved in everything I do. I've had enough of being overtaxed and paying for things that don't affect
Yeah.
me. I've had enough. You guys can't play well together in the sandbox. So we're gonna, I mean, look, man, the House and the Senate everything's red. So that to me is an indication that people are saying, okay, we're done. we need change. And they're laying their hopes in this red wave that that'll be the case. I too have these same hopes, right, since now we are there.
Red is Republican?
Red is Republican. Ferguson is Democrat. Reichardt was
Yeah.
Republican. But,
Yeah.
you know, as far as how does the Trump being president and Ferguson being our governor, they are already teeing up in our state to battle Trump, I've noticed. And
Oh,
I'm
is that
seeing
right?
that a lot. And there are some things that I don't think they should be battling him on. There are also some things I do think they should battle him on.
Where
So.
are they taking him on at?
Well, they'll be taking him on as, you know, I believe, and please, you're smart, correct me if I'm wrong here,
Local
but,
politics are not my strong suit, yeah.
yeah, but we're kind of a safe state.
Yeah.
So
Send a
like
good
if you're,
politician.
we're a safe state, so come here, bring us your, you know, we'll take care of everybody and at the cost of those that are already taken care of
Yeah.
themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be where I would guess the battles will come into. Now, I think, you know, it was interesting speaking with one of my children. I got to hear her vote on some things and you know, she is in the school system and her vote went opposite of what mine did. And after hearing her give me why she voted for Reichardt, I agreed with her.
Huh.
And, you know, she's in the trenches. She is in the public school system with sixth graders. And so she needs the crime to stop and she needs that to stop.
Yeah.
She needs to feel safe again. And I don't know that the Democrats are doing that. I don't, you know, the warm and fuzzy goes to a certain level. But then we got to stop with the warm and fuzzy and say, enough is enough. We got to get some shit fixed.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was interesting to hear that. No names mentioned. But, you know, I think that with Trump being president, quite honestly, our state is going to be having to defend a lot of what they're doing. And it's time.
Like Roe v. Wade.
It's a real hard state to do business in. You know that better than anybody. It's an expensive state to do business in.
Is that right?
Oh, boy.
Which a better one?
I don't know that answer.
Oh, yeah.
But what do you think
We get 'em-
about what I just said?
get 'em
Other
turned
than you're
around.
right, Kelly.
You're right, Kelly. You're right. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that we got to fix, you know. And I think that we go through this election cycle every so often, and you know, people think that the next person has the answer, and I think that we get caught up in like, okay, they're going to come in and save the day. They're going to gut everything and replace it. Well, whatever they're going to replace it with is going to have its own flaws, to some extent. So we're going to be continually evolving on it. In regard to like, you know, the president being in a different party than the local government, that's not anything that's unheard of. You know, I think that Washington State has always had, they've always had individuals that are elected that could potentially go all the way to the White House, right? There's always been rumbles of that because it is such a big market. That said, we haven't seen that pass in a very, very long time. But what that kind of tells you in terms of breaking it all down is that this corner of the U.S. does defend itself and sometimes bucks the trend of a national call to order. So it's going to be even more so right now because the president-elect is a very combative voice in the media. And what we're going to see is people coming out and finding any reason to go against that public figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For not the right reasons even, maybe.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. You know, some of the stuff that's been surfaced recently is
I
they're,
thought he said he wasn't a politician.
well, I mean, there's a lot of articles coming out where they're nitpicking Trump's next cabinet, right? And I think in some scenarios it's like, why did they choose that guy? And in other scenarios, you look at resumes and you're like, okay, this guy actually could be a good fit in this scenario. but you're seeing a lot of propaganda come out where every choice that he makes in regards to that next leader he's putting into office is bad for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And I think that gets old. You
Yeah.
know, where you're looking to fight on every piece of news that comes out.
You know, we sat and had lunch with a very good friend of ours this week, and it was interesting to hear her perspective on the media and how, you know, her husband said to her, well, they're telling you, they're sharing with you right there on what the bill says, or they're sharing with you on what this person is doing, and this, that, the other thing. And she says, no, read it. Or no, he said, read it, you know, because she thought,
Right.
well, this is what they're saying. Look, it's right here on this, and they're telling you. So it would be lovely to have the change that the biggest change that happens is whatever is reported isn't snipped and cut and snipped and cut and snipped and cut, but is actually factual reporting.
That'd be a day.
That would be the day.
Because if we had factual reporting, no matter what news station you are, no matter what media source you are, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I don't care. Whatever source you are, if you were factually speaking, then the blowback would be less. Instead, you would be informing. But are we looking for are we looking to inform, or are we seeking out blowback?
People are lazy.
People are
Yeah, that's-
lazy.
People are lazy. So it's much easier to hear like a snippet out of context and then like that gets the click rather
Yeah.
than going in and watching a 45-minute speech.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, 45 minutes too long anyway.
I want to back
Right,
that up though,
yeah.
and disagree with you about one
15
thing, because
minutes is pretty long.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays.
lazy is a word that could be, so, perfect example, AI
Mhm.
is maybe, using AI is maybe not lazy as much as it is intelligent for securing better time for yourself when you're thinly spread. You know what I'm talking
I
about.
do, yeah.
And so to consider someone lazy for, let's say, putting together a job description on AI, when you gave information to that computer, basically, which is what AI is, and it generated for you out of all of its information, all of its facts, this scenario, that wouldn't necessarily be called lazy.
60 pages.
So if you were to have that same thing be in the media, and the media, or all media, had to be fact-checked, then it's a different deal.
But who fact checks it?
That's where you develop.
That's where you only factual. Yeah, it's
That's your own AI.
it's your
actually.
own or AI, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, like going back and looking at some of the snippets and headlines that were really trying to sway during the election, like some of that stuff was taken pretty out of context.
Both sides.
You know, on both sides. And the fact of the matter is like, I didn't watch every one of those speeches or read every one of those policies. And the fact is I'm waiting for somebody else to interpret it and regurgitate it in a more digestible format. And I think that is where we are at as a society. You know, you get on Reels or Shorts or TikTok or whatever it is, and you literally have 2 seconds to land the plane. And if you don't engage that viewer in 2 seconds, it's gone forever, and you're never going to see it again.
Yeah.
And it really like sets us up as a society in a really weird scenario where we're constantly chasing the dopamine for the next thing that lights us up, yet we're not taking enough time to really consider, you know, what our decisions actually entail.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're seeing a little bit right now in terms of like the media, is you're seeing people come out and say, "Well, I didn't vote for this." Well, yeah, you did.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
did.
you did. Like things are going to change in this way, and it's going to affect you in that way. Wait, what? Yeah, like that's what's going on here. So I think we're going to go through this period with the next leaders in the country where there is going to be some pain.
Yeah.
There's going to be some pain.
And
AI can be programmed to make probabilistic statements like what's this going to do to this or that thing that exists now, and
Right.
and what you're saying, and so they can they can generate that out, and there it is.
Hmm.
You know, you say, well, that's not what I want, though, you know,
Yeah.
or it is. Oh, that sounds good, yeah.
Mhm.
So AI has that probability that
Yeah.
can do it.
You know, I think that, you know, there was a real worry prior to
Mhm.
the election. I haven't felt that since Wednesday.
Hmm.
I haven't felt that from the people I'm speaking to. The majority of the people are saying, you know, it is what it is, and here we are, and let's
Yeah.
let's go. Let's see what it does. You know, the stock market is loving it, obviously, right now. But you know, again, getting informed and moving forward with that. It'd be interesting to see if this does some corrections for both parties.
Well, I mean, the ball's in the air, right? I mean, we've given our input, and now you just gotta sit and watch for the next
Watch.
4 years. Like,
Yeah.
you can get involved in local, you know, volunteer positions and you be the change you wanna see, of course.
Yeah.
But also, like, a lot of people will only vote every 4 to 8 years, and then they just, okay, push the boat and hope that it sails in the right direction.
Huh.
And I think that's where a lot of people are right now. Like, they
Oh,
cast their vote,
You can only
and
vote
here we
4
go.
to 8 years?
Yeah.
4 to 8 years?
No,
Or
4.
8.
No, I believe he can't run again.
That's the one factor that needs to play into this too, that people may be thinking about that, is that if we don't vote him in and he loses, he'll probably run again in 4 years. And nothing you can do about that, you know,
Yeah.
maybe behind bars or something.
I think
don't know, yeah.
I mean, they have to give him the seat.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way they can get away from that. I
Yeah.
think that would be, that,
Yeah.
that would get so ugly so quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they have to give him the seat at
So
this
now we
point.
can't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
He's got 4 years to do what he
Mhm.
has, and that's
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Yeah, and the you know, it'd be interesting, I'll pull it up for one of these podcasts, but the Republican platform and the Democratic platform, back years ago, when I was a lobbyist, and I enjoyed that very much. You know, we had these groups, and I was a lobbyist for education, and I loved it. And so you had to stay with these groups, they had these appointments set up. You had these appointments set up and they had you seeing this representative, this representative, this representative. Well, I would stay in the back of the group, and as the group walked on, I would peek my head in and see, and I had in my purse a bunch of little boxes of chocolate. And I would wait and see if there was a secretary or something, and I would back out of the group and go visit the secretary, drop off box, and I got to go visit with those representatives one-on-one instead of in a group.
Oh, nice.
You know, and that, you know, just to get some real stuff. And back then, I remember reading the Republican platform and the Democratic platform. And the Republican platform is a pretty good platform, if it's followed.
Right.
But you know, but that was years ago, again, you know, less government, less, you know, let the country, you know, let it go, and let people do their businesses, let that happen. So the Republicans typically are for less government.
Yeah.
Democrats, the opposite of that.
Right.
But then again, I'll pull them up so that I'm not speaking out of my ass.
You said something the other day, which you haven't said today yet, that one of the reasons for voting Mr. Trump in is that the nation is scared of socialism.
Oh, I think the nation is very scared of socialism.
And by voting him in, the socialist agenda won't go farther than it already has.
Yeah.
We have partly a socialist agenda anyway, and it just won't go farther, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be some knock-on effects, right?
Well,
Like
howdy.
you pull the socialism out of the country, you don't have Social Security,
Right.
right? Those people that are out of a job that aren't getting a paycheck anymore, they're, oh boy, You know what I mean? There's going to be a day where it's like, uh-oh, wait, what happened here?
Yeah.
You know, so it's going to be interesting. You know, I think that every time we have an election cycle, these people make grand promises that they can't deliver on. So I'm at this point where it's like, okay, what's actually going to happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's actually going to happen? So, you know, in terms of like the way it affects us on the day to day,
Who knows yet?
not much.
Not much, though.
Not much.
Not you and I.
Yeah, on the day to day, like nothing's gonna change drastically. Like you may see some. I don't see it, especially like in our local situation, like being a very bleeding heart blue state in Washington State. Even if they come out and say, "Hey, we're gonna slash government government subsidies to help those in need," I still think the Washington government will step up and do what they need to do to support those individuals.
Really?
But
Oh, good.
time will tell.
Time will
You know,
tell.
we're a very divided state on our own. You know,
We are.
we have a mountain range and it's a
Separates us.
very divided state.
Blue, red.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
and it has for a long while.
Oregon and Washington,
Yeah.
same thing, you know, there's eastern Oregon and western Oregon, and of course Portland, all the vote is up there, you know, and in the 3 counties there in Oregon and eastern Oregon gets kind of left behind. You
Mm.
know.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing here.
Yeah.
Your next point was job security, whatever you define as your job,
Yeah.
and local effects. I find that an interesting topic as well, because, you know, we just got done going through the Boeing strike, right? And they settled that. I think it was like a 38% didn't vote for it or something like that. I don't have that exact fact in front of me. Interesting. It's over.
Mhm.
They're all back at work. They're gonna do a major layoff of 10,000 people in January.
Oh, boy.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So,
What'd they gain?
Yeah.
you know, so it's,
That's often the question at a lot of strikes.
I-
What do they really gain after they come back
Right.
to work with the increased wages and benefits and all that stuff? It's, yeah, what are they gonna get? Boeing is not gonna lose anything,
Mhm.
well, owners of businesses
yeah?
do not own a business just to employ people.
No,
They own a business, yes, they employ people, but they own a business to make money.
make a profit, that's right. That's called capitalism.
Okay.
It's true, is it not? Give me an
I mean,
opposite.
there's just multiple reasons to run a business, right? Right, there are. And if it was to just make money, I don't think it'd be easy to maintain a team long term. So I think you gotta have different reasons to run a business.
But if you
Right.
are running a business and you're just doing it for just your salary, are you gonna wanna run your own business? Or are you just gonna go to work for someone?
Well, that's the
I-
socialist thing.
I mean, I think people start businesses for all different types of reasons.
Yeah.
And it's not always to get
A
rich.
need.
Yeah. And I think like we as a society try to set up companies that make the world a better place and provide benefit to the end user.
Yeah.
Right? I was listening to something on the drive in where they were talking about McDonald's, and like there's this big conspiracy going out right now where, you know, big food manufacturers have it out for the little man. They want to make you sick to sell you drugs on the back end. It's a big it's a big like following on the internet. People are saying it. It's getting a lot of clicks and a lot of following. And the entrepreneur's point in regards to food production, the food companies are going to make food that their customers are going to buy.
Right.
Yeah.
And because Cheetos taste better than an apple, you buy the Cheetos. They're not poisoning the food to make you sick. They're trying to give you, the customer, something that you will buy and repeatedly buy.
Over and
give
over
you
and
the
over and
most
over.
joy that it can, right? So, I mean, in that lens or that perspective,
Like
that
tater
company...
tots and French fries.
Right, exactly. But that company is trying to provide the most joy to its customer. It's not healthy, But if people are going to buy the mozzarella sticks, you're going to serve the mozzarella sticks. And I think that like there's some sort of ideology in there where a company is created to like bring value to some individual at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it's not always a profit center.
Right, but if
It
you're
should
not,
be.
yeah, but if you're not profiting, it's gonna be tougher for you to keep that.
It will-
You might as well get a job.
Might as well get a job.
Might as well get a job. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's twofold. So you're saying I should get a job.
No. I'm not saying you should get a job, because, this company was started, that company
Yeah.
that you're talking about was started because there was a need.
Right.
And so two men saw a need,
Mm-hmm.
and they saw that they could grow this thing and service more people.
Right.
That being said, there's a dividend on the
Yeah.
back end of that.
Yeah.
And so when those dividends become less, then we shrink the company.
Right.
So there is, even though you are serving a need, even though you are making Cheetos instead of owning an apple orchard, there's still that bottom line. Ooh, the dividends are really down, and
Right.
Yeah.
you think that way, just like Boeing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we got hit with billions of dollars,
Well, and
so now we're gonna have to lay 10,000 people off
that's right.
to make that back up.
Yeah. Cause and effect.
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect. There's this really interesting podcast I listened to that really dove into inflation. And the host starts and says, I don't have any idea what inflation is. I'm going to take the next hour to figure it out. So he goes and interviews a whole bunch of people. And essentially, like, what he gets down to is, like, inflation is ever present. In other words, things are always going to get more expensive. But when we talk about lowering inflation, we're actually talking about lowering the rate of inflation,
Right.
not inflation.
Because inflation's gonna happen.
Right. So as the common person walking down the street, I'm voting for this individual because he's going to curb inflation. Goods are going to get cheaper. My dollar is going to go further. Therefore, it's going to be better.
Okay,
Not
but
the case.
that's
Not the
in
case.
a economy that continues to thrive. The thing that kills inflation is depression.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole thing just kind of collapses, and you got to start over again, and the government has to, give it some fluid and so on. And so it's FDR's time was a good example of that. In the Second World War.
Yeah.
We don't want a war to do that, and,
Yeah.
like the Japanese yen, it's like, you get a whole lot of money in a wheelbarrow sort of thing, and the German mark, just before, that was same thing, you fill a wheelbarrow up with marks, and there you go.
Right.
So, that's an unfortunate way to have to bring inflation back down to a level that is manageable by an economy, and so that kind of
And I mean, if it's,
bothers me.
yeah, and then it's going to be painful to get there, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean, essentially, what has to happen for inflation to drop, for the prices of goods to drop, is we have to buy less goods.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we buy less goods, they inherently have to get cheaper so people can afford them. But what that essentially means is the income stream that you have, you either need to hold on to or it's going to be lowered for you.
Yeah.
So when this time where goods are high and wages potentially drop, you're in a situation where that sucks.
Yeah.
You have to choose milk or eggs. You don't get milk and eggs for the next 3 weeks, 3 months, or whatever the case may be. So like that process of lowering the cost of goods and halting inflation, it's not going to be a fun process for anyone. It was great. It was great when they were printing money and throwing it at you, and oh boy, COVID times, here's an extra $200 or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
Those days are gone. So it's gonna have to go the other way. So it's gonna be a little bit rocky.
It is gonna be rocky,
It's gonna be
and
rocky.
it's gonna be real interesting to watch. it is going to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time to be alive, you know, and you think about some of that stuff. And, you know, I blew up a picture for Mark
Well,
yesterday.
is it Dickinson? May we live in interesting times?
Yeah.
Is that Dickinson? Who is that?
Charles Dickinson?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it is Dickinson. But like the whole like quote comes from "May you live in interesting times." It was written because at that time people were broke. People could not afford to eat, so they were so concerned about how to get their next meal that that's all they could focus on. So the term "May we live in interesting times" comes from the fact that we have it so well off
Right.
that we live in interesting times.
Yeah.
Also, in
Yeah.
France, I think one of Louis' king thing was, you know, they deliver rotten apples to people and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
So we don't want to do that. But at the same time, the world's population is growing,
Mhm.
but it isn't growing in the Northern European.
It isn't growing in the United States either.
No. Or
We are on a
Japan.
population decline.
Yeah. So it's going to grow in Africa. That's where it's going to grow. It's going to be a overwhelming growth in Africa, and we're going to have to deal with that
Yeah.
as time goes on. Yeah. One of the other things here was the legal. The Even though the law is written and passed, what are the legal things that you would be concerned about with these two people?
Well, I'm glad it was a decisive election. I will say that because like we don't have to be in courts and figure out who the
Right.
actual winner was. So I'm
Yeah.
very thankful for that because
Yeah.
that's where I thought we were going for a while. I mean, both sides were setting up
Yeah.
a contentious election would have been solved in
Oh,
courts.
man. Yeah.
So I'm glad that that's not happening. We're gonna have a convicted felon that's gonna be the president of the United States of America, which has never happened before. Now, the argument on the other side is that it was essentially lawfare, right? They were blowing the whistle and convicting him as a felon on charges that were not felon worthy, right? So I think that's the scariest piece for me is that we are now in a time where the lawyers are going after one another rather than trying to like follow the true north of what is right, what should happen, and they're more party loyal than they ever have been. And I think that's the biggest point of concern in the lawfare that's going on in politics right now.
Lawfare. Yeah.
One of the two things that Mr. Trump mentioned was kind of a resurgence of capital punishment when actually capital punishment was going the opposite direction. I mean, more states were, you know, not going to do that. And except for Texas, which, you know. Anyway, that's a legal thing, and the idea that anybody that comes across the border and harms a citizen is a death penalty.
Hmm.
That's a little bit. I think that may have hit the nerves of a few people, but I don't think it's worthy of real good legal thing. And the other one is the question of abortion. My view is, nobody asked for that, but
It's your blog.
until the Supreme Court actually does something like declare the certain stages of a fetus as a human being, that the fetus has no right. The woman carrying it has rights. So, but I think that needs to be done. Maybe there's a lot of religious movements against that sort of thing. having the Supreme Court decide what, but sooner or later, I think they're gonna have to do that. Well, like at conception, is that when it happens? Or at birth, is that when it happens?
So you think they're gonna have to make a final decision?
They're gonna have to make a decision.
It would definitely give us a lot of clarity as a people, because the rhetoric on both sides is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like them saying that they're waiting until full term to
Is completely
destroy
asinine.
destroy a baby is just
Yeah.
nuts. But it all comes from that. It all comes from exactly the point that you're making. Is like no one has said this is the point.
Yeah.
This is the point by the law of the land, and that would probably help gain like a lot of people with clarity on where they stand on it. Because right now it's this gray area that's really hard to parse.
It is, yeah. Yeah, and it's hard to manage precedent law
Mhm.
without that kind of clarity, I think.
Yeah.
I do think, to speak to the previous thing that you said about, you know, people coming across the border and committing crimes.
Yeah.
I have to tell you that I have never been a proponent of people coming across the border and living in our society without having either a card or citizenship or something.
Yeah.
That being said, why do we make it so damn difficult?
Yeah.
You know, so that's the thing. If they're coming across, let them in. They got, before like a driver's license test, you gotta pass this test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't get in.
So I've heard quite a bit about voter fraud in this country, like in the lead into the election. You don't hear much of it following the election,
No,
oddly enough, but
no.
like going in. And a lot of the stuff that was being raised was the fact that some states don't even require an ID to vote.
That's ridiculous.
Doesn't it seem that way?
That's
that feels like an
ridiculous.
obvious move.
That is
but
just, see, that's the problem, is that here we have created this problem and now we're saying it's the illegals. That's not the case. It's us.
yeah, you have to drive before you vote. I could get on board with that. I mean, there's some people that
There's
can't
that.
vote, so let's not even go down that road. But to go back to your, initial statement where, Trump has basically said, hey, we're going to kill anybody that comes across the border. And I don't know if that's the actual quote or not, but I can tell you this much.
No, it's
Trump
hurt
gives
somebody.
off an air that he is a crazy guy, that is erratic and you don't know which way it's going to go.
Yeah.
So if that did come to pass, there would be one or two headlines and it would probably shut down
Yeah.
immigration very quickly. As sad as that is,
Sure.
you would get results. It wouldn't be the way anybody would want to get the results. This is not an endorsement, but like you look at him and the way that he's handling Russia,
Right.
Ukraine,
Yeah.
there's communication going on. I don't know if it's going to I don't know if it's going to end any faster than it was before, but here we go. Buckle up.
And that's why people did the vote the way they did. People
Yeah.
are like, you know what? We hate that Ukraine is going through what it's going through. It is heart-wrenching for
It
them.
is, yeah.
It's gross that it's happening. But we got huge problems here.
Yeah.
Fix us first.
Yeah.
Leave the money here, fix us. Then if
Right.
we have extra, you bet, let's help these people.
Right.
But that's not what's going on. We're not helping us. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what the next 4 years holds. I hope that he doesn't get a lot of camera time, because that
Oh,
drives
he
me
will.
nuts. But
He will. I mean, so that was my biggest hesitancy on like seeing him be elected, is that like I remember those 4 years that he was initial president. It was every day. If
Every
not
day.
every day, it was every other day. But most of the time, it was like every day.
Saying something stupid.
Something just like,
Yeah.
wait, what? And you'd see it on the news every day. And like, I really hope we don't go back to that. We might. It might be unavoidable, but boy, there's
Here's a
so
thought.
much eye rolling.
Yeah, here's a thought, maybe he actually is gonna take this as serious as it is. And maybe in his later life, 78 years old, maybe he's gonna say, I'm not running again, so I'm gonna leave my seat, because he's an egomaniac. I wanna be known as the best president ever.
Ever
Ever. There's never been a better president.
greatest
So
Nor will they.
maybe he will take this opportunity to do exactly that.
Yeah. You got to have faith. At the end of the
Yes.
day, you have to have faith that we're on to a bigger, brighter, better world. And though there's a lot of fear in some of the individuals that we've talked to in the last couple of weeks, like at the end of the day, like we have to strap in and find the best, find the positive.
We do.
What are the silver linings?
Yep.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
move forward with it.
And there will be silver linings.
There will be silver linings.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So good pod, Dad.
yeah, good pod. I'm kind of surprised that we haven't talked about the UAP announcements on the government level. Have you guys
Yeah,
seen any of that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But their announcement was that there is none.
Oh. Okay. I'm gonna have to look into it because I know it's been on the feed and they are making a big deal about it. Was it like last week sometime?
Who was making a big deal?
I don't know. I saw a few headlines on it.
No,
I'll
I
try
think
to
I
find
think
it.
that there I think that
I
it's
think-
I think we're on the cusp of what we've been
Disclosure.
I
yeah.
think we're on the
Yeah.
cusp of them actually having to come clean
Yeah.
and say, yeah, no, we have, because, and I'll tell you why I think that, and this is dumb, but it's, you always got to see what's happening
Right.
around you.
Mhm.
There have been more documentaries than ever.
Hey, did you watch that one about the Manhattan
Holy
abduction?
cow.
That's crazy. That's such a crazy documentary.
And,
by the end, oh man, it's 3 parts. I enjoyed it.
But
I
they got
enjoyed it.
people coming out now that are, like the underwater one. Have you seen that?
Uh-uh.
And that there's a base. Yeah. Anyway, woo.
Yeah.
So I think that we're getting ready to hear,
USO,
huh?
USO.
underwater. Yeah, I thought it was USO, something like that.
Anyway, anyway. Yeah, where there was a gentleman that was on a boat that would take military out to this island, and they were coming in and out of the water.
To be honest with you, I've only seen it on my feed, and it's been popping up quite a bit. I
Must
haven't,
watch.
I haven't dove down and dove down. I haven't I haven't researched any of it on my own, but I think things are happening. Conversations are happening on the Hill right now where they're starting to say, no, this is real, and we don't know, it's not human origin.
Yep.
So
It's time for us
here
to
we
stop
go.
hiding it.
Did you see the last Northwest news?
Mm-mm.
Well, there was a kind of a lead article on there about UAPs,
Oh,
and I haven't read the whole thing, so I shouldn't probably comment a lot, but it's the idea that people want to believe that it's real,
interesting.
even though there is no
Oh.
no substantial evidence.
Another try at trying to pull the wool over
I
our
mean,
eyes.
Yeah.
I think there's a good point though. Or like the fact that we have no concrete evidence after all of this stuff makes you seriously pause. But hopefully they do have evidence and they're just concealing it. That's what everybody puts their faith into.
Yeah, I think there is evidence, all right. Now, but then, what do you consider evidence? What do they want? They want to be able to go inside a spaceship or something,
Or have we already?
Shake hands with the guy stepping out of it, say, "Take me to your leader."
It's like, how deep does a rabbit hole go? Yeah. I mean, for me, it would just be hey, yeah, there's a crashed ship.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah.
And that would be. Okay.
And it wouldn't change my method of functioning.
Yeah.
If I am to believe that everything in the universe centers around Earth,
That's very
I'm a-
narcissistic of us.
yeah, man,
We are the sun.
we are. Yeah,
we are
no, we're
the
not.
sun.
It's all good. It's all good. Anyway, we'll talk about that next time.
Cool.
Okay.
Good
All
work.
right, thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
What's UAPs? Yeah?
What's the UAP? Send Ivan an email.
UAP, an unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Yeah.
Phenomenon.